Yeah, I think we should get started then. Let's get started. Apologies, like I said, everybody trying to figure out where everything's going. Really happy to have everyone here this Thursday, especially with everything that's going on. We wanted to both celebrate the end of this wonderful process that we've had with everyone, where we spent the past 3 weeks imagining what the future looks like with the end of gender violence, with racial justice, and with climate justice. And so we wanted to both honor that and also to really take a moment to kind of acknowledge what is going on around us, both for some of us in the United States and for folks, quite frankly, all across the world. So I think that it's really important for us to really begin to talk about that and to highlight that, because I think we're going to be talking about climate change today, and obviously all of the concepts that we have are really all tied together. To give everyone a little bit of background, just so that we have context, and just recognizing that it's a difficult conversation. And so if you need to take a moment, if you need to go off of your video, if you need to mute yourself, if you need to do whatever, then please take the space to do that. But in 2020, just so that folks understand, 656 people have been murdered by the police thus far. It is the end of August. 1,004 people were murdered by the police last year in the United States. And so that is the world that lots of us live in. That's the reality that lots of us wake up to. And if I'm being honest, it's exhausting. So yeah, I'm very tired. And so I think, yeah, we wanted to stop to take a breath and to really sit in that. I also wanted to give space, Jonathan, if you want to add any thoughts that you might have as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So waking up and being Black every day comes with its own struggles all the time. And I think, I think as we go into the next piece, which is a breathing exercise that Georgia is going to lead us, and then as we have the conversations tonight, again, as we've kind of said throughout this whole series, we just want to like make space for multitudes, and even just honoring for myself that I've kind of been like oscillating between like just pure anger and then like breaking down and like crying just for like the past week, and just knowing that in addition to the shooting of Jacob Blake by police officers, and we've seen also how white supremacists and vigilantes have also like been springing up in this moment. Also knowing that today also marks the 20th birthday of Black woman Toyin Salou, who was also murdered at the hands of gender violence. And so just knowing that there's so much going on in our world, and there's so much to hold, that it's difficult to like be in this space and vision, but also it's necessary because we are the ones who are working towards and building towards a better world. And so honoring that space and also holding that as we go into the breathing exercise, knowing that as we're like centering ourselves in this moment, in this space, that it's okay to cry, it's okay to be upset, it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling. It just means we're human, and it means we're alive. And while we're still here and with the folks that we're building community with, continue to hold on to people as tight as you can. And so, yeah, that's just something we want to kind of offer to the space, knowing that it's been an especially hard week. So, yeah. So if, yeah, at this moment, we're gonna get a little choked up myself. But at this moment, we're gonna go ahead and pass it to Georgia, who's gonna start us off with some breathing exercises, and then we'll get started in this space.
Thanks, Jonathan, and thanks, Aaron, and thanks to everyone for being here. It's beautiful to see you. Yeah, we talked in the last two sessions about the power of presence and how often all of these horrible systems of oppression take that or try to take that away from us. So the last two sessions, we took some deep intentional breaths, and I thought that we could start today with reflecting on the natural flow of breath and and sit with some gratitude that it comes in and out without effort as well as with effort, if we want that. So I just invite everyone to sit with your feet kind of firmly on the ground. And if you want to come off mute, I think as much as we can kind of practice breathing together. Great, but just an invitation. And apologies for, I know there's a little bit of background noise, but yeah, so if people could put their feet firmly on the ground, and I invite folks to close your eyes, to put your hands on your legs, and we're going to start with taking 3 non-forced breaths. So just naturally letting your breath flow in and flow out. So we'll take a breath in and out, and really try to feel the breath move through your nostrils and flow out, and feel it over the top of your lip. And see for as gentle as the breath comes in and out, if we can really kind of hone in on actually feeling it move in and out of our bodies. And again, recognizing that it comes in and out without effort, any effort on our part. And then as you keep letting your breath naturally flow, we're going to go ahead and, like we did in the previous sessions, pinch our throat a little bit so we can make the out breath audible. So we can focus on feeling it move through our body, out through our nostrils and over our lip, and then back in. And we can hear the breath coming out through our throats. And then as we allow the breath to come in and out and feel our feet on the ground, to think about the quote that there's a crack in everything, and that's where the light comes in. And see if you can visualize, as you're feeling the breath, the place in your body where the light of gratitude and the light of love and the light of a future vision comes into your body. And if you want, I invite you to move your hand into that space, and maybe it's up by your eyes, maybe it's closer to your chest or your solar plex, and see if you can kind of touch that space where the light enters you, and really see whatever color of light or the feeling of light, or maybe you can see the warmth coming out of it, and just coming back to your breath and feeling it go in and out over your lip. And trying to be present not only with our breath, but with all of our senses. And being grateful that in all of the really strong, intense feelings, that our breath is very gentle and nurturing. I'll take one more unforced breath in. And feel again where our feet are touching the ground and where the weight of our seat is resting. And then on this last breath, we'll rub our hands together and try to generate some of that heat. And then for the last thing, after you generate some heat in your hands, putting your hands, the palms over your eyes, and just resting for a minute in the gratitude of what all of our senses bring to us, and allow us to always come back to our companions of breath, of sense. And then let's just take one big, deep, intentional breath in, and let out a big sigh and shake it out. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. And we'll try to move through this next 90 minutes and come back as often as you want. And through each exercise, we'll come back to the kind of gentleness of the natural breath that we don't need to force in and out, as a reminder of how we can always access our presence one breath away. So thank you, everybody, for breathing with me. I really appreciate it. And Jonathan, I'll pass it back to you for group agreements.
Yeah, thank you so much, Georgia. And again, just really quickly, going over to group agreements for tonight. Just a quick reminder to use I statements. That's really helpful in terms of grounding in your own experience, recognizing impact over intention, knowing that we may have best intentions, but it may not always land that way with folks, and just honoring that space and wanting to hold space for that. Make space, take space. So if you find yourself speaking up a lot, taking a breath and taking a step back and seeing if there's space for other folks to be able to speak up in the space. And per usual, just giving folks a content warning. So we will be talking about, again, and we kind of already spoke a little bit about the gender violence that we're seeing out in the world, and the state violence that we're seeing, but also in particular talking about the environment and climate and the impacts it's happening on our communities. And then, as Erin mentioned before, just remember to take care of yourselves. Take a step back if you need to, hop off video, grab yourself some water, do what you need to do to be as present as you can in this space. Next slide. So what's a little bit different about the agenda today, again, generally, we like the process of like getting us grounded into this space, but what we really want to focus on this evening is we have collective visioning, and we have some writing exercises and some prompts for folks, but we really want to engage folks and digging really deep about this being the last section, and really just kind of like offering up this now so folks can be thinking about it through the session, is folks kind of leaning in and really reflecting with us collectively about how this experience and how this process has been for you. And so that's what we really want to spend some time on tonight, and offering that up. But as we get into that space, we are actually going to offer up a really cool opportunity for everyone to show us what's on their placard, show us what the future that they're fighting for, so that we have space for everyone to share that collectively with us, and to take us forward on that. And I think we're good with the slides, thank you. Will be Georgia to kind of take us through the next steps on that. Georgia?
Awesome, thank you, Jonathan. So yeah, we're going to, and we did a little bit of this in each of the workshops, but we really wanted to take a moment and hear from everybody. So if you have a placard, we'd love to see it. If you don't, we'd love for you to just state one manifestation of the future you're fighting for, from any of the workshops or collectively. And so you can see that we've numbered everyone in the room. So we're going to try to do the best that we can. So please be patient, as you always are with us, as we kind of move through this next stage. But what it's going to look like is I'll just say the number, and then Katie is going to spotlight you, and that'll be your moment to just share your placard and say your name, your pronoun, and the future I'm fighting for is whatever you want to share. And it can be from this session specifically, or one that you've built on other sessions. Does that sound okay to folks? Twinkle snap, yeah? Okay, great. So maybe Rico, if we'll maybe just start with you, and then I can, and then I'll jump to number one, and then I'll just call the numbers out as we go, and folks can take a minute. And yeah, just say your name, your pronoun, and and show your placard or share your statement.
Word. I also take any opportunity to sprinkle snap. So when I made my sign, I made it in like a half. It's like half cardboard, and the other half was video. So you can see the thing, but it looks cooler on video. So you got to just trust me. What it says is inclusive. So.
Can you just read the whole thing, Rico? Yeah.
Yeah. So the future we fight for is inclusive.
Awesome. And then we'll go to number one, Lily.
Lily, she pronouns, and today the way I'm feeling, the future I fight for is a future that I don't have to fight for everything.
Say that again.
Thank you. I don't see a number two, so I'm going to go with number three, Natalie.
Let me turn on my cam. I'm Natalie. I'm beaming in from Yokutsland, Stockton, California. She, her pronouns. I don't know where my placard is, my dog, and all the kids are playing with it. So the future we fight for is a future that's free of the nonprofit industrial complex, and one of which I don't have to wait 3 hours in line to see the damn doctor. That's it.
Thank you so much. Melissa?
I always think about making placards, but there's a lot going on in my house. So there's some screaming in the background. The future I fight for is one where my children don't have to fucking be scared. And they don't have to march. That's it.
Thanks, Melissa. I love you. For 5, we have Regine.
So the future I fight for doesn't see the earth as a platform. In other words, the earth is real. It's not just a fake theater, that we really live on this planet. So we should take it seriously.
Beautiful. Thank you. Karen, 6.
I unmuted myself. Karen, she, her pronouns. The future I fight for, I don't know if you can see this, is one with bounty, love, and peace for all. And the bounty part is the part I'm really thinking about today, because there are so many people who have to do without, and do with less, and do with not enough, or do with nothing. And that's on the food level, the emotional level, any level, that there's bounty. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. 7, John. Come off mute, John.
I'm good. The future I'm fighting for is equality and housing for all.
Thanks, John. Did you make a placard? Did I see one, or
Yeah.
or was it the ocean? Ah, wow, it's amazing.
See
when
it?
you
I
hold your.
can't see if you can see it or not, but.
No, you just become the sea. It's very profound, though.
Okay.
There's a meta story there.
Yes, thanks, John. So we are on 8, Heva.
The Heba, she, they pronouns, and the future we fight for is queer, green, and fierce.
Beautiful, thank you. Cho, 9.
Hi, this is Cho, she, her. And mine says, like, the future that I'm fighting for is one where Greenpeace or any other organization is not needed, as we will live peacefully with people in nature. Over.
Thanks, Cho. Ansley, 10.
I'm Ansley, she, her pronouns, and the future I fight for is one in which everyone has access to safe, healthy green spaces.
Beautiful, thank you. Apologies for pronouncing your name wrong. 11, Sasha. Sasha, are you on?
Yeah, I am. Sorry.
No worries.
Sorry. The entire region I'm at is completely fucked by weather right now. And I don't know where a lot of my family is. So I'm I'm having a bit of a hard time with this right now, but the placard I had written was that the future I imagine is one in which my ancestors planted for me. Okay.
Thank you for sharing that. Is there anything else that you want to share? Is there any way that this group can support you in what you're going through right now?
I don't know what it would be. Like the Gulf South is forgotten most of the time. So, every year we deal with hurricanes and weather, and that's what we've done always ancestrally. But I I think when we think of like the larger conversations of dealing with like the petrochemical industry and everything, like we just forget that there are these people here who live here, who actually live all of these apocalyptic conditions that people like imagine for themselves. I don't know, I'm sorry.
Don't apologize.
Yeah, no need to apologize at all. Thank you so much for sharing and for being here during, that's a lot, and that's really hard.
Hi, she, he, they pronouns. The future I'm fighting for is unburdened.
Thank you so much. Althea?
Hey, sorry, I'm just a little emotional.
No need to apologize.
I'm Althea. My pronouns are she or they. And the future I am fighting for centers the well-being of Black and Indigenous peoples and the land.
Thank you, Althea. Did anybody not get a chance to go or to speak or to share?
I can go, Georgia. I've had a bunch of different placards and really appreciate folks like sharing in the space. But the one that I chose tonight, and excuse my handwriting, but Jonathan, I use they them pronouns. The future that I'm fighting for is a world where Black trans folks are safe. Safety, that they have all the things that they need to survive and really thrive.
Thanks, Jonathan. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for sharing. This is hard, really powerful, really important work. And so thank you all for what you shared and for being brave enough to envision a better world and to be here tonight with everything going on. And as we move through the evening for support folks or other people that didn't share that want to, we can keep coming back. So there'll be lots of other opportunities. But Erin, I'm going to pass it to you to kind of set us up for the rest of the evening. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, just to say too, I'm a little off script, but Frailty Myths normally does a lot of workshops with not a lot of dudes. Our workshops are usually women, trans, or non-conforming folks, and one of the things that happens very often is folks, especially that are female identified, will start sentences with, "This might be really dumb, but," or "This might be wrong, but," or "I'm really sorry to say this, but." And I think that we do that because we are not valued as people, as bodies. Our voices aren't valued. And so we qualify what we say beforehand to make it, ease. And to go back to a beautiful thing that Melissa shared with us, I think in the first workshop is, how do we get to the space where we give people us whole and let them choke on it. And so that is to say, please don't feel the need to apologize for your feelings in here. They are all valid and they are all real. I have no business validating anyone's feelings, but I will. So to say, shit is tough. I apologize for cursing, but it's hard. And so there's no apologies for that. And there's no book of how we're supposed to get through the road, let alone how we're supposed to get through the road with white supremacy in a global pandemic. I don't have the rule book for how that works. So all your feelings are, you know. So we're gonna go a little bit. We're gonna kind of change things up a little bit, just in terms of our own little timeline, and we're gonna go into a writing exercise that we were really excited about. And so I know that in our last workshop, for folks who are with us, we were working on a writing prompt, and we're gonna do something really similar to that. We're gonna kind of get into a different kind of prompt. But is Rico? I don't have my I gotta get my gallery so I can see everybody. I just see my giant face. Where's Rico at? Where's Rico? Where's Rico? There he is.
What's up? Yeah, I can jump in. So, do we want to go straight into the sensory writing? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Feels right.
Yeah, and I really appreciate just how much people are sharing, and just like, again, to acknowledge that what we're asking everyone to do is hard. If it were easy to imagine a different world despite the context that we live in, it would be easier to push for it. More people would want to do it more often, right? And so everything around us is telling us not to picture something better. And so I think one of the things that I really enjoy about this exercise that we're doing right now, that we're about to do, I'll share two things. One is that it's all about feelings. It is all about how you connect to, whether that's memory or whether that's envisioning the future. It's all about seeing it through your senses. And then the second part about it that I really love is that you don't necessarily need to know the answer. And I think that there's knowledge that is in us. I think there's understanding that is in us that might be beyond our ability to articulate exactly what it is that we want. And so as we're imagining this future, imagining what we want the world to be like, really using our feelings, our senses, and our imagination and play to try to get beyond what we can see in front of us, because what we can see in front of us, frankly, sucks right now. What we can see in front of us is really difficult. Is really it's heavy. So I hope that will help inform a little bit of context of what we're about to do. And so here it is. Writing exercise. Can everyone see the slides? It's doing that cool thing where I can't see anything. So let me just pop over here. Cool, I can see the chat. Great, got hearts. All right, so we're gonna do sensory writing. And it's very similar to what we did last week for folks who were here. We're gonna just take a couple minutes to write about this prompt that we're about to give you, and really try to dive into it and explore it in as many ways as possible using your 7 senses. And so you're gonna have 3 minutes to write using paper and pen. And I do encourage you to use paper and pen if you have access to it. Your taste, touch, sight, smell, and hearing. But then to add to that was body and motion. Thanks for putting that in the chat as well, Tom. So when I talk about body sense example, I often give is if you walk into a room and the hair on the back of your neck raises or your stomach drops because of something that someone says. Those are all things that you feel very innately. And yet they don't necessarily fit neatly into one of the other senses that we've already talked about. And then your sense of motion, you can feel what it's like to be in a car going very fast versus going very slow, or to be on a roller coaster, or to be on a plane. And so those types of feelings that you can have internally based on how your body's moving through the world at any given moment. And is that a little bit more clear?
Amazing.
Word. Cool, thank you. So without further ado, here is the prompt. What would it feel like to fly? So we're gonna write for 3 minutes about what it would feel like to fly. And again, try to imagine and explore that through all 7 senses. Also, option to write for 3 minutes about whatever else you're feeling right now. And we'll begin now.
And so yeah, as everyone kind of wraps up their thoughts, take a second to kind of put an exclamation point on whatever curse word you were giving to 2020. It is. It's so lovely to see everyone with their kind of heads down writing. I think we don't get a lot of time for that. So that's lovely to see. And I think just before we get started too, I really want to take the time to, this is such a lovely and beautiful prompt. And especially I feel like as a Black woman, this prompt just gives me lots of feelings because it evokes feelings of liberation for me. And I think that when we are thinking about this moment, I really am going to challenge everyone to try to tie together the ideas that we've been thinking about as it relates to race and gender and climate, and this feeling of freedom with what that future of liberation looks like, um, um, knowing that it will make us light and joyous and free. And so in that vein, I would love for someone to take a leap of faith with me and share what they wrote or share their thoughts. Regine, and then we'll go to John.
Yeah, I can do it. For the prompt, it would feel wonderful to fly, to feel the wind as it hits my body, moving on top of and inside air. I would hope to swoop on the currents as I see birds do all the time. I'm sure the crisp air above the buildings would be a change of smell, and I hope no insects find their way into my mouth. But maybe some water droplets and wet wind would splash my face like when I walk in the rain. My body would be a tool for flying, so what I don't need would just travel along for the ride. I would feel ecstatic, and maybe even turn upside down so I could see above me. What would I hear? Whoosh, whoosh.
It gives me so many feelings right now. I really appreciate you sharing that. That's beautiful.
This is one of my favorite dreams that's been recurring for the last 20 years is flying down off of Mount Tam. So I never got into it. Thank you, Rico. This is really a wonderful exercise. I'd never before really got into the rest of the senses, just feeling the floating and I didn't do such a poetic, but the touch was a wind on my face and touching the treetops as I dipped down over Muir Woods. And the smell is going through the redwoods and the smell of the green, what's it called? The green, the greenery. There's another name for it. Until I get down to the ocean, I can smell the salt air. And the same when I go through the redwoods coming down, and I can taste the flavor of the redwoods and then down into the salt. And I hear the whooshing and the whoosh as the wind goes by. And I start seeing wide horizons, but mostly I can see out to the ocean, all the way to the north and south, Point Reyes. And then I feel the body, the tension in my body when I'm feeling the weight as I'm lifting up, because I'm really like surfing down the mountain, and it's mostly been gliding and not flopping my wings, but I can feel the uplifting and then the pressure when you turn one way or another, and just tensioning on one side. And internally, I felt a joyous nervousness. And I think those are all the senses, but it's beautiful. Thank you, Rico.
Yeah, I put in the chat, but also big plug to Jonathan for this prompt. It's really, I love the idea of like taking this very like specific kind of picturing things that you've seen and then applying that to imagining. I think it's a great way to use that. So plug.
A bird soaring, my body and soul untethered from my pains, aches, and burdens. The wind burning my eyes with the joyful liberation of the sky, being tickled by the wind and currents of hopeful promise. Waves of water flow from my eyes as I view my reflection. Gliding through the ocean, salt in my hair, sea foam filling the air, quivering at the remarkable beauty of finally being free.
That's lovely. That's really nice. Does anyone else have something they'd like to share with us in their reflection? You know, one of the things that I think about when I thought about this prompt was there's a story of Black folks that were brought here from Africa that were brought over on slave ships. That the story is told by white Americans as one of the largest group suicides in U.S. history. It's told in African history as a story of liberation. And the story is long, but suffice it to say, slaves were being taken across the Pacific, or across the Atlantic to the United States. And they heard slaves underneath the ship. They heard Black folks making noise. They sent someone down to the bottom of the ship to figure out what's going on. And the person didn't come back. So they sent another person down. Person doesn't come back. Finally, they go down. Everyone, the captain goes down and realizes that these Black folks are in a full revolt. And as the ship was coming to the shore in what is now South Carolina, Dunbar Creek, you can go visit it. It's a real place. The people in the city, at least this is the way that the story is told, saw these 75 slaves walk off the boat and to land. And then they turned around and, while chanting, walked back into the water. And what they were saying was, the water spirits brought us here, and the water spirits will bring us home. And they were going home. Right? It's a much better task to walk home in the ocean than it is to be a slave. And so I think about that a lot. I thought about that with this prompt. What does it mean that you picked walking back into the water rather than being here where we are? What does that freedom look like? When my ancestors tell stories of flying, that's the story that we tell. So the future that I'm fighting for is a future of rest. I'm tired. I would like to rest. You know, but the water spirits brought us here, and the water spirits will bring us home. So that's what I thought about. Yeah. "2020, huh?"
Did you see, thank you for sharing that, Erin. Karen also said that she wanted to share.
Yes, I'm sorry, Karen. Where you at?
No, sorry, you're amazing.
No, sorry. Since you asked if anyone else wanted to share, I'm taking you up on your offer. To fly would feel like nothing I would have ever experienced. I would feel the wind on my skin, sometimes brusque, sometimes light, where I would feel tropical and airy. If I flew low enough, I could smell the jasmine flowers mixed with the wisteria, with the heavy scent of the roses, and with the intoxicating oranges. I would touch my toes on the top of the redwoods, their spongy bark and their feathery needles. I would hear pieces of conversation, maybe "what's for dinner?" mixed with ocean waves crashing at inaccessible beaches.
Inaccessible beaches. Yes. Yes. Well, does anyone else have anything that they would like to share? I really appreciate everyone sharing so far.
I ignored your prompt. Sorry, Rico. I love you. I don't usually ignore you, but I ignored it anyway. When I woke up this morning, I didn't wake up on my own. Jacob woke me up. He's 3, and he starts early and stays up late. It's a lot of fun. He woke up and he looked outside, and it was still kind of dark. And he said, "Oh, it's froggy out there. We can't go outside today." I said, "Froggy?" And he said, "Yeah, look at all that frog out there. It's like, oh, of course we can't go out there. And then I took a walk with a friend who had lost a baby. And we went down to the ocean. And usually you can see Mount Baker and Mount Rainier kind of in the distance, but it was so froggy that we couldn't see anything except for the top of Baker and then the tippy top of Rainier. And then there was just this bank of frog and it made everything just kind of just cleared out, like nothing was on the landscape except for fog. And then a big barge came and you could just see the very tip of it. And so it looked like it was floating on top of the clouds. And then as you could see more of it, it actually looked like a train with multiple cars going across the clouds and then across Baker. And we just watched all of this fog, and she wept and felt guilty because she lost her baby. And I feel like this whole, in the last handful of days, has just been another level of fuck 2020. And then the daily rhythm of having kids and getting up and feeding them and sitting outside on the porch and drinking coffee and watching the frog roll in, which isn't a normal thing, but that cycle, the rhythms of like regular life and how like it's just the next thing and the next thing. And when you talk about being tired, Aaron, there are rhythms that feel like they lay out all other rhythms, and I need them to stop. And I look at the people, I don't even know most of the people on this call. Actually, I do know most of the people on the call, and I feel like I know you. Now I feel like we're deep in it. But I look at you all and I think, well, fuck, I want you to have your regular rhythms of your day, and I want you to have safety, and I want you to have that. I want you to be so secure and safe that you're a little bit bored, and that's my wish for people going, for people on this call, for people going out into the world, that we just have this abundance. You all have been talking about abundance, this abundance of safety, and that our normalcy is safe, and that there's not anybody that would ever hurt you or take things away from you. And I keep trying to like create these rhythms of safety for my kids, so it means like not having any news on, and it means not looking at certain things, which is probably just as well, really, but like having that bell jar of safety around them. And I'm like, fuck, how do I create a bell jar for everybody that I love? How does that extend to everybody that is Black, to everybody that's trans, to everybody that is dear to me? And, I do not know the answer to that, but I love you all. And another thing I was thinking, because I keep hearing it from all over, I think that we should work on not saying I'm sorry anymore. I noticed in January, that I was starting a lot of like the conversations that I would have with I'm sorry, or the text messages, I'm sorry. And then when COVID hit, I stopped and I really intentionally like paused all of my sorries. And then May hit and I was like, oh, fuck, sorry. I don't know if I'm ever going to be sorry again. And I would challenge you all to stop apologizing for having thoughts or feelings that aren't like, nice and neat and packaged and compartmentalized. And I think that especially women of color, we do not need to say, I'm sorry anymore. Unless you like run over somebody's dog, but otherwise, I don't think that that's necessary.
A quick caveat. I appreciate it.
I'm gonna put myself on mute now. I love you all.
I think there's so many amazing things that you said there, Melissa. I think I was so touched by that, that want for boredom, right? I so very much want to be bored and regular. right? Like, I can't imagine just being bored. Like, that sounds like so lovely, which is a really weird wish. Please hug your little ones for us. Georgia, you got something?
Yeah, I just wanted to share something, and I wonder if you remember this moment, Erin. But we were one of our workshops. Someone shared an exercise with the Frailty Myths group about instead of where we would normally say "I'm sorry," instead practicing and trying on what it felt like to say "thank you." So instead of saying "I'm sorry for being late," saying "thank you for being patient while I did what I needed to do to get here and be present." And so we spent the day throughout that Frailty Myth workshop really practicing not only asserting space, but being in a practice of gratitude rather than apology. And it was a really, I wish I remember who shared the exercise, but it was a really, I think about that a lot. And what you shared, Melissa, I think it was a beautiful transition to take an oppressive system and turn it into a gift of not only gratitude, but space for ourselves to really own, you know.
Just to say, it's also really great when you're late on an email, right? So thank you for your patience. It's a great email line. I use that one a lot.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, what does it mean to not apologize for our existence? Right? What does it mean to not apologize for being being emotionally heavy? What does it mean to not apologize for being sad? What does it mean to say, like, my feelings are valid and they mean something, and they will be messy, and it's okay, you know? Yeah. I think this is really wonderful. I want to make sure that folks continue to have the space to do this. Does anybody else have anything else that they want to share about their feeling of flying that they had written down? Okay. Well, the space is always available, so if you ever feel something, then let us know. What we're going to do now is we're going to transition into our small groups, where we're going to talk about some of the prompts. And like we said, this workshop is really about climate justice. And so we've had some terms that we talked about last time. I want to make sure we're not going to do what we did last time, where we kind of walk through all the terms. We'll have those written down so folks can kind of talk about those later, or can have those concepts for later. There's two real big terms that we want to make sure that folks get. Are the slides? Can we toss the slides up? Is that possible? I'm in Southern California, so I'm in my Hollywood, just directing movies. I love it. So in just saying that, like I said, there's lots of terms. We're not going to spend very much time for this at all. Please make sure that you go online. There's lots of really great things you can read about this. But there's two real terms that we want to talk about today when we're thinking about environmental justice, and that is just transition, and that's environmental racism. So I'm actually going to invert them and talk about environmental racism first. Right, and that is the ways in which, for most of the folks on this call, I think we're a little educated on this, so I'm educating folks that are educated, which is great. But there's obviously a connection between the issues that are impacting climate and racism, right? So we're actually like communities that are being directly impacted by this. So here in the United States, as communities that are African American and low income are disproportionately impacted by negative environmental action. So for example, I live in Southern California. I live in Long Beach. I live around about 100 or so oil rigs that are visible from my home. Yeah, it's trash, Karen. It's trash. And there is no natural break on the ocean where I live here in Southern California, and that is because this is the place where the United States decided to have a nuclear testing site. So they can't have a break for the ocean because that will disrupt nuclear weapons that are sitting on the coast of California. And that is what we're seeing across the country. And so I want to make sure I'm in slide mode, so I can't see who mentioned it. But the conversation earlier that brought up the U.S., the Deep South here in the United States is especially an important conversation when we're talking about environmental racism, because the ways in which we say that marginalized communities are impacted by negative climate actions, that is happening disproportionately down in the Deep South. So communities in the Gulf, Louisiana, Alabama, like that whole Gulf region, parts of Texas, are being disproportionately impacted by things like coal, oil, all of the rest of that, because poor communities are the ones in which they're putting these factories in. So environmental justice is just talking about the ways in which race overlaps the way in which climate actions or negative actions on the climate are impacting the United States. And so just transition is also a really great term that kind of connects those two. So the idea, understanding that we want to transition from being dependent upon oil, dependent upon coal, dependent upon all these negative, all these, I see a chat here. Oh, Gulf South. Oh, it was Sasha that mentioned the Gulf South. Thank you, Sasha. I really appreciate you bringing that up because I think it's such an important point. And one of the things that people that live in the South might also recognize is that for a lot of communities of color, we are working in these industries that are destroying communities all across the world, all across our neighborhoods, not because we want to, but because those are the only jobs that are available in our neighborhoods. And so a just transition is really recognizing and envisioning how can we transition from an economy that is taking from the earth to an economy that is actually working with the climate and working with change, and help transition workers that are disproportionately communities of color and marginalized communities from that work into work that helps to actually support the earth. So really thinking about the reason why these terms are so important is because they're connecting all of the terms that we've been talking about, right? So when we think about climate change, when we think about race, and when we think about gender justice, all three of those ideas of those liberations are all tied together. And when we're thinking about environmental racism and just transition, those are two spaces in which we can think about those terms working together. So what we want to do now is shift over into our small groups. We have some prompts. Maybe we can get out of this large thing. We've got some prompts that we're going to be thinking about when we think about environmental justice. And so I will give those to us now to think about in our small groups. And so the first one is, I'm fighting for a future where my children don't suffer from asthma. A great example. I'm fighting for the future where people are valued over profits. And I'm fighting for a future where my water is not poisoned. Just some examples of some prompts that we can think about with environmental racism, or environmental justice, I apologize. So now what we're gonna do is we are gonna go into small groups. We're gonna think about the prompt of what does a future look like with environmental justice. We're gonna divide up all digitally like we did before, where it's gonna be like Star Trek and we're all gonna disappear, but it won't be into that little, I touched base with Zoom. They're not on it yet, so we'll get there, it's fine. So we're gonna go into small groups now. I think Katie is gonna do that for us, which might be why we're all numbered. So if you disappear, you can go chat about that. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about our visions and how we can connect that to the future and what we've been talking about for the entire workshop. Are we ready to divide up? Ready to disappear into the internet abyss? No? Yes? Amazing, it's happening.
I'm so ready. Into the abyss. See, this is where we need that. This is where we need the theme music, you know? It's something space-like. I think it needs to be space-like.
So maybe I'm pulling an audible because like, yeah, so like also I'm typically the one who's like pressuring people on the side check to like make sure we're on time. So just full transparency, but like also just really like feeling like what we've kind of shared in the space and like wanting to hold the space. So I'm wondering if just like on a consent basis, if folks are just down to like stick around. I'd love to hear from folks like as like it feels right. But yeah, like the main prompt that we want to like offer is just for space to just like open reflection. Like I know like the past couple sessions we've asked folks to kind of reflect on what was like the process like, what do you think about the different prompts with racial justice and gender justice, but also just knowing that not only is there, you know, we have the hurricane situation in the Gulf South right now, we're seeing state violence, we're seeing gender violence, we're seeing all these things. Just having like the opportunity to vision with each other is really powerful, and honoring our power, honoring the gifts that we get into the space. And yeah, like we also would just like wanted to check in with folks, like what kind of feels more possible now as a result of what we've been able to do in these series. And so yeah, that would be my invitation. That would be my offering, is that like, as someone who's usually a stickler for time, you all have been sharing so beautifully and sharing it as you have in such a vulnerable way. And I'd love to just hold that space for folks. If you have to hop off, we definitely understand that, but definitely would love just to hear, even if it's just a few folks, to just kind of like, what are you know, this is the last session, and just thinking back on this whole process, what has that been for you? And what kind of feels more possible in this moment? If we could just have a few moments for that space.
It's Rajin. I already said that this has been a most wonderful group, and today I really wanted to play hooky because it's been such a crazy day and everything that's going on. I'm like, I just wanted to kind of curl up, but I'm like, no, I'm going to join this. I'm going to do this third one because these are really good people and this is the best place for me to be. So I just want to say that it's been a pleasure and it has helped me get through these past weeks with the pandemic and everything going on. And I want to thank everybody and thank Frailty Myths and Greenpeace and all the people, because even though my stomach is still in a nervous place, it's been nice to spend the time with you guys.
Thank you for sharing that. I just want to say that this space has been really, really amazing for me. I'll just read verbatim from slacking a friend of mine today during work. He was asking how the workshop was going, and I said, oh my God, it's such a wonderful escape from everyday life. It's facilitated by wonderful people. Everyone is so respectful, affirming, and positive, and I just absolutely love it. So that's like my review of the workshop. I've really been enjoying it, and I feel like I've learned so much. And I would say, just in terms of kind of like taking things forward, at work today, we had like a really tough conversation, hard conversation around kind of what's happening in the world. And I think I was feeling really resentful and angry because I felt like some white folks were taking up too much space, or being defensive about what else can be done. And I'm really trying to focus personally on, especially at work, and like how much I can bring into work, how much I can bring from this to work, is just doing small things. I feel right now it's all about the small wins, and I'm trying really hard to take a lot of the learnings here and implement them. I'm actually writing our quote unquote diversity and inclusion manifesto / baseline. So I might hit you all up for help, but I've been taking so much, and I'm just really, really grateful for the space that everyone here has created. So thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, I would like to thank you to do this for us. I think you are giving us a place to share, but also a place to know more people that are having the same feelings like we are. And yes, we are having, all of us, a really tough moments. And I think that this is a place to share our feelings and our concerns also. And another thing is that I feel now that I'm not alone, and also I feel like I'm a part of a biggest and a strong movement that is the people power. And I really would like to contribute to have a better world, a more fair world, and more green world from my experience and the knowledge that I know. So it's something that I really would like to push, and yes, and to do from now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maybe one more person, and then I feel my facilitator spirit coming on that we do want to move to a close, but maybe one more person. We don't want to cut folks off, but really appreciate folks. Yeah, go ahead.
For me, this has been the ability to like really intentionally create joy in my life, and by imagining what I want and actually going for it instead of just imagining a better world, like actually taking concrete steps, like applying to internships with like solar companies or things that really give me hope in life and that I'm passionate about. And it's been the motivation for me. Like, this is what's given me the drive to follow through on those things and not just continue to be afraid of what happens if I'm not successful with this thing, or what happens if I get rejected, or all of those worries that really just are insecurity holding you back. And so it's really freed me from that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I really just want to really appreciate folks for just showing up in the space, right? For sharing, for continuing to just be open to this process, open to being water, open to being in community, and open to learning and growing together with folks you may not know, folks that you may know, as well as just really like being able to dedicate yourself to this process. So what I'm gonna do is I am gonna move us to next steps so that we can get y'all out of here and y'all can go on and eat dinner or do whatever else you need to do for the day. But from the bottom of my heart, I just appreciate you all in the space. Anyone who may be watching this recording later, folks who are watching on with us live, not taking for granted that you chose to be with us, not taking for granted that you've chosen to share with us, and not taking for granted that the fact that what each of you has contributed to the space has an abundance of value. And I will forever cherish that. And I hope that you all will continue to cherish this moment and what we've shared together. Yeah, so I'm gonna hand it over to Erin, who's gonna talk to us a little bit more and kind of close this out.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, as always. Amazing, amazing words, amazing thoughts. I want to echo that too, and just to say, you know, this past month, I think I won't speak for anybody else, but it has been hard for me. And I was up in the air about whether or not I wanted to be here right today. And I was so nervous about like, oh God, I gotta emotionally hold a bunch of people today. And I just want to say thank you, because I think that the inverse happened, and I think that y'all held me. And so I really appreciate that. And to say also that this is a special group and a special amazing group of people, and that the ideas that we have are not supposed to just live in our body, right? They should continue to grow, and they should continue to be out in the world. So the idea is that we're not just going to be in this space and just be in this moment and just be talking about this with this group and then it's over. All of us are now imbued with these ideas of how powerful it is to imagine, and it is all our responsibilities to share that with our friends and our families and with our loved ones. And so, you know, making a commitment to each other in this room right now that we will find the way and the space to ask someone else in our life to imagine and to help guide them through that process. I know that is a lot. And if we can make that commitment to each other, I think that is a beautiful way that we can change the way around us and the world around us. I just want to remind everyone again that the nonprofit industrial complex is real. It's real. And there are organizations right now that are sucking up resources and sucking up space and sucking up time and not doing anything with them. And if you find those organizations, please run as far as possible. And if you find organizations that are doing the work, that are grounded in community, that are being transformative, that are looking internally at themselves and asking, what can we do right? What have we done wrong? And how can we change the world? If you find those people, if you find those spaces, if you find those organizations, like hold on to them. If you find member-based organizations where you can find a family and find a home and feel whole and feel loved, hold on to those spaces. And so if for some reason either Frailty Myths or Greenpeace is that space or are those organizations for you, please help us continue to change the world by joining us. And so you can obviously find both Frailty Myths and Greenpeace online on all of our social media. Again, I think for me, my revolution comes in being whole with people. And I want to just say thank you for letting me cry with you, because that is part of my healing and part of my growth, and something that I've struggled with, to be able to cry in front of people. And so you have helped me grow today. And I love all of you for that. And I'm going to toss it to my best friend in the whole wide world, Georgia, and she is going to finish us with a little breathing. Georgia?
Thanks, Erin. And yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks for being here. I think, and as we like move into the last couple breaths that we'll take together with this session, but obviously we'll continue breathing together virtually and hopefully soon non-virtually. You know, I think like there's been so much bravery shared in these weeks, and that part of the challenge, I know for me, of allowing myself to imagine a more just world and starting to see it and feel it in moments is also, it adds like a layer of fear because it's more that they can take and it's more that can hurt. And so I just, as we breathe together and as we share in this space together, it is both like simultaneously really, really uplifting and makes me feel ways, knowing that it's possible makes me feel a much stronger, like an increasingly stronger sense of what, like the magnitude of what we can lose when we don't stay rooted in community and stay rooted in justice and stay rooted in love. And so I am deeply inspired and in gratitude for all of your bravery to imagine and also to manifest something that they want to convince us is not possible. And so thank you for that. So let us take, so folks can come off mute so maybe we can hear some of those breaths, and we're going to take, let's put our feet onto the earth and really feel it. And we'll take 3 breaths together, and let's really, let's breathe in the full range of all of what is possible, like really deep into our lungs. Let's breathe in. And we can breathe out all of the abundance and space that so many people don't have. And we'll breathe in possibility. And breathe out abundance. And we'll breathe in space and share that space with all of our community. And we'll end with breathing in peace. And with a big, loud exhale, breathe out more peace. Thank you all so much. And please, we really want to stay, you know, the future we fight for is not a thing that ends here. We are all have been through something together, so we will stay together. So please keep sharing. We'll put the altar up, and our breath will stay as our companion, but also all of those items that you shared. Thank you. And to remember that for me, like this moment is also a thing that I can hold with the power and move forward. So like as we move through this world and move the community, we continue to collect those power items, physical or not, that give us strength and power to keep going. So thank you.